Hey there, it's JohnBerry555 and welcome to my review of the Our House Season 3 Episode 2 For the Future. So this review will have spoilers. If you want either no spoilers or light on spoilers, go check out the shorts that I made before this video came out. I'm much more careful making sure I don't spoil too much stuff. So I do have to spoil some of the stuff because of some of the topics I wanted to discuss. But in this video, there will be spoilers. With that out of the way, let's get on right in and just say my thoughts on him, everything I thought of it. So let's begin with this. I preferred things for them or the things to them. I preferred episode 1 in season 3 more than I enjoyed than this episode. I enjoyed both episodes thoroughly, but I think things for them had a bit more cohesive of a story going on. Probably because of probably the initial ideas they wanted to tell for the story were much easier to condense for going on for what they were going to do in the human realm. I have a feeling they were much able to condense that into one story. While here, you can definitely tell the ideas that they brought in from other episodes that they wanted, and other, not necessarily episodes, but other ideas they wanted to cover. This episode really shows how having a shortened season 3 is hurting them a little bit. Now, they still told a great and amazing story that was filled with wonderful character interactions and character dynamics and character developments. But you can tell more in this episode that they wanted to do more, but didn't have the time. You can definitely tell that they wanted probably just an episode of them exploring the boring arrows, and probably in another episode with what's all going on with Hexside and all the students taking refuge there. Like, I have a feeling those are two things they wanted to tell differently, but they had to merge together in order to fit the time constraints and all of that. You can definitely tell that they are using their difficulties to create new solutions. But you know what? I have mentioned the strengths of this episode lies in the characterization, development, and all that interactions, and that is certainly true. We have this is actually quite key. When they arrive at the Owl House, Luz's mother, Camila, recognizes that Willow is holding in all her feelings, and we can, as the audience, answer that because you can see Willow's leaving traces of her plant magic as she walks around, plants popping up and all that. We see that as the audience, and I don't think Camila picked that up on that, but she does pick up that Willow is suppressing her emotions, that is hurting her. But Willow, like she's done she did this pretty much until the catharsis in the episode. Keeps on suppressing her emotions and not letting them, for that better term, dominate her. But by suppressing them, later on in the episode, they do dominate her, and she's unable to, for that better term, control them and control her magic. But this is also a very good scene too. Despite Willow basically having lost control of her magic, it also shows what good friends Hunter and Gus are for Willow, to say, we won't think of any less of you if you let it out. And she does. She cries. She lets out how she misses her father. Like, she lets it all out. And you know what? And because of that, she's stronger than she was before. Her magic, she has better control. And if anything, it's stronger than it was before, because she has finally let herself feel her emotions, and rather than suppressing them. And of course, it's also very good because during all that, Hunter admits how much Willow means to him, and then afterwards, Willow also admits that to Hunter, and they hold each other by the pinky, hold hands by the pinky. It's so cute. And yes, Hunter confirmed. I really do like how they did that. But also just show that I think the word I'm looking for is to be in a relationship, you don't have to keep your negative emotions, for that bad term, suppressed. Like Willow, wanted to be the strong one. Makes sense. She doesn't want to have her friends see her as weak, because they've come to rely on her for so much. But what allowed Hunter to actually come together, Willow and Hunter, to finally admit they have feelings for each other, is by both of them acknowledging their emotions and their feelings. Especially for Willow, she needed to acknowledge all her other emotions, her sadness at not being able to see her father, all that needed to come out for this to succeed. Kind of shows that, if you have a significant other in your life, and if you keep all that stuff away from them, all the emotions you might bottle up for other people, it can hurt the chances at a relationship. That's at least what me as a single guy is interpreting from that scene. So you may have a different interpretation. But there's a lot else going on. With everything on Hex side, we actually get a little bit with Basha too. One, while they probably would have addressed this in here if they actually had more time, but the idea that, Basha still has not addressed or apologized to Willow for all the torment that has occurred. So we'll probably won't get to see it, but at the same time, Willow does say that it's not over yet. So essentially Basha still needs to apologize. Will she apologize? I don't know. But one insight we got into her character, which I was not expecting, is that she has attachment issues. I was not expecting to learn that about a minor character that she's not Odalia, but most of the fandom doesn't like her. And I think she's not intended to be a likable character. But I think one of the great things about the Owl House is even the unlikable characters, you can understand them. Basha is real in this episode, has attachment issues. She's upset that Amity is not friends with her anymore. She's upset that Amity was gone for a couple months. She's upset that the rest of the Grunge B team have been turned into puppets. Like, she's upset that all the people she's killed her has essentially walked out on her, which made it much easier for Kikimoto to influence her into basically running the school as a dictatorship without any good ideas on how to keep things going. I also did like how all that went through that Bosch is now student body president that only happened because Principal Bump is not there anymore because he never let Amity form a student council. And then Willow told Amity to let it go. I thought that was just neat little character interaction there. But really, going back to how the Owl House has done a good job of establishing even unlikable characters who are supposed to be unlikable, there's a reason for it all, an understandable reason. Attachment issues, so when you do have friends, you become kind of controlling, a little bit toxic about it because you're afraid to lose them. Even Belos, also known as Philip, guess what? He has the same issues. Well, not the same issues, but he has issues as well. Issues growing up in basically Puritan New England that does not accept diversity of religious opinion, like that's all stuff that if you know anything about the Puritans, you can understand what's going on with Belos. He essentially had a messed up childhood, and we actually do get some hints in this episode that he sees himself as basically everything seems like he's been trying to save his brothers, that would be Caleb's. So he's even seeing figments or ghosts of Caleb as well in his current state, and he also possesses the puppet Rain. That's going to become an issue come next episode. I guarantee you, lots of angst is going to be coming up. But he's going right back into manipulating the Collector once again to get the Collector to do the dirty work for him. But I think this is what this tells us about Belos. We can understand it's coming from a guy who, well, for lack of a better term, wants to be in control but doesn't want to suffer any consequences for his own actions. We don't know enough about, everything that went down between Belos, so Philip and Caleb, but it's definitely safe to say that a lot of it is because of his own actions, of Belos' own actions. Probably he wants to be in control, but he can't stand any consequences. He's a manipulator, but in some ways, he still hasn't grown up. He hasn't matured. Which, in a way, kind of pairs nicely with the Collector, who we learn in this episode is just a kid who wants to play. He's not like the other Collectors, and yes, it's sprinkled from that there are other Collectors, that the Collectors are kind of a species, which kind of makes sense because when we got that little preview of the Collector in that one episode where it was actually the episode where Amity and Luz finally admit their feelings for each other, but with Ida's story, where she comes to understand with the Owl Beast, but there's a momentum Collector in her dream sequencing that was going on. So that was, I think, one of the first references to the Collector in the Owl House, but one of the first. So before we fully understood what the Collector's character would be, however, this kind of confirms that that's not the Collector that we are dealing with in this episode, and probably the next episode as well. And what I think they're going to do is show that the Collector just needs a parent, and Odalia is not going to be it, even though she's basically being forced to be a caretaker for the Collector, who the Collector now calls Mama Dahlia. And she's not happy with it. Makes sense. Basically, she gets probably the worst thing. She doesn't get to do what she wants. She doesn't get to remake the boring hours the way she wants. But she also is not a puppet either, which probably would be too good for her. So she's stuck basically being the nanny for a baby, not a baby, for a young, immature child who needs some good parental guidance. And King recognizes it. King, when speaking with Ida, who he's keeping secret as the curse is more under control, and got Lilith also undo from the puppet from that she was turned into, probably convinced the collector he needed someone to make a potion to deal with what's going on with the owl beast to get all that. That's probably what it could do. But like King acknowledges tells them that they can't lock the collector away forever. There needs to be a better solution. That's also not which is what Belos wants the collector to think, and he's doing the manipulation to create that. Well, this guy's while occupying the puppet of rain. So that's something very important to take a note of there. But so King recognizes that the collector is just a child and needs basically guidance. Parental guidance needs to grow up, much like him in some ways. He sees that connection there. So it's going to be interesting to see how it goes in the next episode. But I really do like how they're keeping Belos as the main antagonist. Because, let's be real, Belos is Luz's foil. Luz is the main character, so Belos has to be the foil. If he's not the foil and the collector is, that doesn't work, because if the collector is a foil to anyone, it's King. Young, powerful, but also immature. The King is maturing, so this tells us that the collector probably will, because the collector is not the villain. Yes, they are an antagonist, but they are not the villain. But Belos is the villain, and therefore has to be the foil to our main character, our hero or protagonist in Luz. And unlike Luz, he doesn't learn the lessons. He always makes the wrong choices. Luz is the main character. And speaking of being a main character, of course her powers being revealed is going to be a big, spectacular affair. A snake shifter, that's literally what it is. And so all the characters' guesses on what it's going to be. Well, we got a dragon, we got a snake, we got a bat. I think somebody else mentioned otter. It's all the things us fans were speculating. But no, it's a snake shifter, so a little bit of everything. And implies that it could probably change shape as needed too, as well. And Luz gives it the name String Bean, which is just the perfect name for Luz to get it. It's just so Luz. And she is able to do this by, acknowledging what she probably never really acknowledged before about herself, that she wants to be understood. And what it takes for that is her mother acknowledging that she is also a nerd as well, just that she kept it hidden. Like, that's what it took for Luz to realize she wanted to be understood, which fits nicely going all the way back to episode 1 and that disconnect we saw between Luz and her mother. Luz wanted to be understood. She felt understood in the boring hours, but she really wanted to be understood by her mother. And once she realizes that's what she wanted, her Powsman was able to hatch and become what it was supposed to be. And that's what's so perfect about the scene, because it fits so nicely into Luz's character. If Belos had ever called the Powsman, it would have never have hatched. You know why? Because unlike Luz, he's the villain, he's the antagonist, so therefore in the archetype of the story, he can never really learn his lesson. But Luz learns the lesson. She's a better character. Of course she's a better character. She's also a better person, but she comes out better than she did before. This is why this episode has been so good on character development. We're seeing good character dynamics. Everything is there, and it's so good. It's building off of what we already know, establishing new things, showing our characters growing. That's what's so good about this episode. That's really what's the great thing about it. Also, another thing, some Masamune. Yeah, his actual name is Matt Samu. Samu, it's his last name. And we know, and it's pretty much confirmed that Steve is his half-brother. We're pretty positive on that in the fandom. So does that mean that's Steve's last name as well? Doesn't fit. He's just Steve. But that's probably where I'm going to end this review on that nice, happy note. Who knows what's going to happen in the next episode, but I guarantee inks. This is the Owl House after all, not Phineas and Ferb. But anyhow, after that little note, let me know in the comment section down below, what did you think of this episode of the Owl House? I would love to hear from you and get the discussion going down below. Also, be sure to check out any links in the description down below. Also, feel free to like, share, and upvote the video if you enjoyed it. Also, consider subscribing to the channel and following it to stay up to date on all that I do. And as always, have a good day, good night, wherever you are. Have a good one. Bye!